ladies and gentlemen, my name is Mr. TARDIS, and today in my hotel room, because I'm away for work at the moment, I'm going to be reviewing the Torchwood monthly range adventure, The Boy Who Never Laughed by Joseph Litster. This story stars Johnny Green as Tyler Steele, Torchwood agent who is in the new wave of Big Finish Torchwood adventures in the Story Continues range, which consists of box set collections like Among Us, Gods Among Us, etc. Tyler has been a mainstay in the Big Finish Torchwood universe since around 2017, and I've got to preface this review that I know basically nothing about that with the exception of the Among Us range from 2023. That may seem like a bit of a barrier for this particular monthly adventure range because Tyler Steele is making his debut here in the monthly adventure range, so this seems like a story that is for fans of that particular Story Continues range, but I think it's a testament to just how great The Boy Who Laughed is that me, an absolute pleb nobody who knows nothing about this character or very little about this character other than what I've heard in the past couple of years, was able to be completely enthralled by what I sort of thought was like a stage play but in an audio drama medium if you could somehow get identical twins on board with the premise. So the premise is that Torchwood agent Tyler Steele wakes up one morning in his apartment and finds somebody else in the shower. He tries to get their name from the other side of the door opens, and it's himself. He slept with himself last night. And the initial mystery is this some sort of weird double agent? Is this a clone? Is this an alien doppelganger who's trying to get Torchwood's secrets? But thankfully they dispel all of that pretty quickly, quite early on. This does genuinely seem to be just Tyler Steele himself, but maybe from a different time. And this other Tyler, Tyler 2, also played by Johnny Green, who is multi-rolling here in a very literal sense. They nicknamed the double Wizard, named after a beloved family cat, and Wizard takes Tyler across his history in a It's a Wonderful Life and A Christmas Carol sort of way, to try and find one particular moment in his life that Tyler is allowed to change to try and make him a better or happier person. And Tyler has to basically have a personal reckoning with himself, the most extreme form of therapy possible, to try and find out what the pivotal moment of his life was. And what follows is, like I said, It's a Wonderful Life, but with a much more cynical character at the centre of it with Tyler, but also a more sci-fi hard edge to it.
So, not Henry VIII. Be more personal. Oh, God. Chris.
So beautiful, so tragic.
So dead. He's dead, we can't change that. But if we've got a time machine... Yeah, I've seen this Star Trek. You take me back in time somehow, so we save my dead boyfriend, which means I don't stay with Torchwood. History has changed, the Nazis win. Deutschland, Deutschland. Alright, okay. I'm gonna let you into a secret. You really don't matter that much. But, I mean, whoever you are, you've taken my form to break into my flat to talk to me. So I am kind of special. Okay. Why are you with Torchwood? Because lots of reasons. Lots of things happened. Bad things. Yeah, some really bad things. So, Torchwood, this super organised organisation. Should have thought about that before I said it. This well-oiled machine of an organisation decides to recruit you. A long, vigorous training programme. HR, away days, hot desking, blah, 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 blah. Yeah, it's really not like that. And clearly you know it's not really like that. Of course I do. I had to actually look up if you were an actual member of actual Torchwood, or whether you're still like just a secondary character. You know, comedy neighbour in a sitcom. Yeah, see, thing is, you know I'd never be that. Main character syndrome. Exactly. So yes, I am very much a valued member of Torchwood.
The Boy Who Never Laughed, the title inspired by an episode of an old TV show that Tyler watched when he was a kid about a young boy who sold his ability to laugh, was such a brilliant hour of quality audio drama. I thought that this was absolutely fantastic, and I think it's a testament to just how strong the core premise is and the fundamentals of the story and the execution itself that allowed me to engage with the story, to engage with this character, despite basically knowing nothing about Tyler outside of the Among Us range from a couple of years ago, but there's so much happening there that there isn't really much time to dive down deep into Tyler as a character. I felt like I knew very little about Tyler as a character, not an issue with Among Us, I just don't know the character. It's the culmination of years-long stories. That's my fault, that's not the Among Us range's fault. But it's a testament to director Scott Hancock's work with the actors, and also a testament to Johnny Green's ability to multi-role in the very literal sense, where he's playing two versions of the character who, at the same time, do and don't have the same voice. I imagine if I were to meet my past or future version of myself, the voice would more or less be the same, but the lingo has changed a bit as I've changed as a person. And the premise of Wizard taking Tyler to these, like, for lack of a better term, these core memories of his life, these transformative experiences that made Tyler the person that he is today, the damaged and incredibly insecure person that he is today, but he didn't realize that they were transformative experiences at the time because he was too busy just surviving. And while there is tension early on as to just who Wizard is, like I said, is he an alien? Is he a doppelganger? Is he there to try and infiltrate Torchwood in some way? That's dispelled of quite early on, but there's always the underlying, monkey's paw agreements. If he changes something in the past, will something reverberate further on down the line that Tyler does not want happening? Wizard genuinely just wants to see Tyler happy, and Tyler effectively has to stand up for himself to himself, and I think that's a really fascinating moral dilemma. Sort of having to excuse your past behaviors, your past sins, to literally yourself. It's a wonderful existential character drama, and while The Boy Who Never Laughed is quite light on plot, that's not an issue at all because the character work is so strong, and the 4 or 5 vignettes of Tyler's life, these core experiences, are so powerful and so palpable as a listener that you don't really notice the fact that the plot has basically stood still for 40 to 50 minutes. Some really harrowing dark experiences that Tyler had with his neglectful mother, the heavily implied and dark relationship that Tyler had with a school teacher when he was younger, and seemingly everything around Tyler's life pivoting to an amateur dramatic school production, a 3-hour production of The Rime of the Ancient Mariner. I think Joseph Lidster has penned an incredibly emotive and empathetic script about generational trauma and abuse, and the complicated, almost self-fulfilling nature of it. I think it was an incredibly emotive piece, anchored by Johnny Green's incredible out-of-this-world performance. I imagine the recording sessions for this cannot have been easy, but the finished end result as you're listening to it, it seems natural, it seems seamless. I was enthralled and gripped by this from beginning to end. From the funny opening act comparisons to Star Trek, and conversations as to whether or not you'd meet Henry VIII or if you'd kill Hitler, you punch a baby and save millions, to the earnest reveals in the 3rd act about what Tyler would change about his life and who it would impact and how he'd go about it. I thought it was a wonderful ending that borders on the schmaltzy and sentimental, but it still feels earnest and true to what I know about this character. Simultaneously subversive, but absolutely perfect for what Joseph Lidster was trying to depict in this story. Torchwood, The Boy Who Never Laughed, I'm sure will be essential listening for those who have been following the story continues range from Big Finish, but even for me as someone who hasn't been following that range, I would still highly recommend it because it's such a strong standalone story on its own terms. It establishes who Tyler is very early on because you have 2 of him to work with, and it's able to hook an audience in who doesn't have that prerequisite and take them along on the journey. Along with the last Torchwood monthly range that I reviewed, Rictus, which takes place in the early 20th century after the death of Queen Victoria, I'm kind of hoping that Tyler's inclusion in the monthly adventures range is indicative of the start of a new era for the monthly adventures range, that hopefully we can now continue and expand on the characters from the story continues range and sort of have the melding of the old and the new for this range moving forward. Kind of like how we've had Colchester in the range for a couple of years with these stories with Sophie Aldred's Ace, indicating the old and the new of the Doctor Who and Torchwood universe blending together to move forward, and I hope that the range more broadly is able to do that as well. But either way, we'll have to see what the future of the Torchwood monthly range is, but as far as I'm concerned, The Boy Who Never Laughed is top-tier audio drama listening. I think even if you have no interest in Doctor Who or Torchwood at all, you just want a really good audio drama, The Boy Who Never Laughed is just peak. Terrific stuff, and I loved it from beginning to end. Definitely one of my favourite Big Finish dramas of 2025 so far, and I feel like I keep saying that with every Torchwood monthly range review. It just sort of kind of shows how high the standard is here. But thank you so much for watching my Torchwood The Boy Who Never Laughed review from my hotel room as I'm away for work. What did you folks think of it? If you have listened to it, I hope you have listened to it because it's really terrific. But let me know in the comment section below. Hit that like button, it really helps me out. And from my hotel room, folks, I'll see you all next time.